Take a breath. Welcome to Space to Exhale, the podcast, weekly inspiration for self-love and soft living. I am your host, Lisa Hurley. I'm a 3-time Anthem Award winner, Reiki master, and community builder. And I'm the author of the book Space to Exhale. Through healing modalities like breathwork, affirmations, and meditations, I'll guide you on a life-changing journey to help you know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and create much-needed space to exhale. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Space to Exhale, the podcast, a safe, serene sanctuary where we focus on high vibrations, affirmations, soft living, and self-care. I'm your host, as you know, Lisa Hurley, and I'm the author of Space to Exhale, a handbook for curating a soft, centered, serene life. I'm here to help us all do just that. Relax, take a breath, say no to hustle culture, and yes to a life of ease. My hope and dream is for us all to curate lives that we don't feel we need a break from. Today, I'll be joined by a very special guest and my sister friend, Alexis Mobley. And let me just tell you a little bit about Miss Alexis while I add her to stage here. So, known to her clients as the Executive Tea Lady, Alexis Mobley, PCC, is an executive leadership coach and the founder of I Matter Coaching and Consulting. With 20 plus years leading at IBM, JP Morgan, Chase, TransUnion, and Capital One, she knows what it costs to shrink under pressure and what it takes to rise with intention. She partners with senior leaders and organizations ready to lead with more self-awareness, courage, and audacity. Her clients don't want scripts. They want to lead like they mean it. Like a well-steeped tea, her coaching is bold, layered, and intentional. Miss Alexis, my friend, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. It is so good to be back.
Back.
It's been a long journey across this podcast. You've had some heavy hitter guests.
Girl, but yes, I have, and you are one of them.
Absolutely.
For multiple reasons, including I think this is your 3rd time on the show. So first of all, thank you, girl, for being there. Thank you. You were, in terms of guests, you were actually the very first guest on the podcast, and so for that reason alone, thank you all your times. Oh my gosh, that meant the world. Thank you.
It's been fun. I mean, you've made it easy for us, and I have enjoyed myself. I've enjoyed the opportunity to share what can be uncomfortable for many, speaking around boundaries. So I am glad to be here.
Good. All right. Well, before, you and I like to talk up a storm. Before we do that, we're going to start as we normally do. And by the way, to let anyone who is watching this, especially on LinkedIn and YouTube know, normally the show is live. Today, the show is pre-recorded in the spirit of transparency. I'm just letting you know that, but the vibes are still going to be vibing. And so don't worry, you're getting the same show. It's just pre-recorded. So before we get started, we are into the conversation. We're going to do what we normally do, which is take a moment to exhale. So Alexis, let's you and I demonstrate for everyone. We're going to close our eyes. We're going to bring our shoulders down away from our ears. We're going to move our head slightly from side to side. left to right, back and forth a little bit, relaxing our necks. And now we're going to inhale through our noses and exhale through our mouths 3 times. So let's go inhale and exhale. And again, inhale and exhale. And last time, inhale and exhale. Every time, Alexis, I do that, I don't know about you, I just feel so much better. Like if you were like, as we normally are, like scurrying around to get ready and all of that, it gets you in the right frame of mind for the show.
Can I add one thing for your guests that I do with my clients as well at the end of a breathwork session?
Please.
Shake it out.
Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out.
And for me,
yes, now you have a theme song.
So why we do that is, again, to get that energy moving.
Yes.
To get us grounded and anchored into the present moment, because all of us are navigating so many things. We're juggling so many things. And this one moment, these couple of breaths, in addition to the shaking, allows us to be and ground ourselves in the present moment.
Definitely, because you can't really do things like conscious breathing and shaking your body, whether it is your shoulders, your arms, your chest, your ribs, whatever you want to shake, right? You can only do that if you're like aware of your body and if you are fully present. And so I love that you do that with your clients.
That is a word that I feel we're going to touch upon a lot in this hour: awareness.
Yes, we definitely are. And so today we're talking about boundaries, and the title that we both fell in love with, Alexis, is Tender Armor, Better Boundaries for Softer Living. So that's the topic for today. And in order to help ground us and everybody who's watching and listening, we have an affirmation. We do an affirmation every episode. And today's affirmation is, I am giving myself permission to have healthy boundaries, tender armor that helps me preserve my peace. So that is the thought of the day, the affirmation of the day, and the vibe of this episode. So as you're watching and listening, just hold that in your mind and give yourself permission to have healthy boundaries. Give yourself permission to have tender armor, which is an act of self-love. But Alexis and I are going to get into that, right? So,
yes, we are.
So let's get into it then. Let's get into it. So you have, you've talked about it, you've written about it several times, that there is a myth that boundaries are selfish, right? And that's actually why we called the episode Tender Armor, because boundaries can be gentle, loving, and not selfish at all. So can you unpack and explain what it means to see boundaries as tender armor, which is meant not to push people away, but rather to hold ourselves close?
We often use the phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And I think of boundaries as enabling my best self to arrive in those moments when I need to pour into someone. Yes. And I will say, in my line of work as an executive leadership coach, I'm pouring frequently. Then add to that, like, my deep, deep desire to give back makes me like a pouring machine. So
yes.
But by the time I am, at capacity, if I say no to an event, if I'm limiting my time on social media, if I'm sleeping in some days and putting my phone on do not disturb, those things allow me to reconnect with myself and my source, activating that tender armor. When I'm on the edge of burnout, and many others may recognize this in themselves, when I'm on the edge of burnout, I'm not able to fully use the gifts God gave me. My personality is short. I'm feeling off. I can be unpleasant to be around, and I don't like that version of myself. So I look at tender armor as the opportunity for me to pour into you with love versus venom.
Ooh, yes. Because let me tell you about the venom when I am hungry. And I love the honesty, your honesty around admitting that there are times when, if we are not at our best, you, me, everyone, we can just be not so pleasant to be around because we are at capacity, and everything and everyone is stepping on our last remaining nerve, right? And it's not a good feeling. And I definitely get that way when I'm if I'm tired and hungry, then I get hungry, and I actually have to remove myself from being around people because I know I'm gonna pick a fight. I know it. I'll pick a fight. Listen, it could be with myself, it could be with whoever.
Yeah.
Because I'm hungry. So in order to avoid that, I just recuse myself from being around people for a while.
I know, especially like in the Black community, when you're growing up, they tell you don't cook if you're angry. True. Because your energy is conveyed and transferred through whatever you're cooking. And I look at this the same way. It's like, if I am attempting to pour into you and I have dust in my cup, my cup is cracked, then you are lucky if you get dust. You might get a crumb of dust.
Yes.
How does that help either of us? It doesn't.
No, definitely. It is not helpful to anyone. And it's better to just either, repair the cup, refill the cup, use a brand new cup, something, but we're not dealing with cracked, empty, or dust-filled cup. That is not going to work at all. Something else that we have spoken about before and that you talk about a lot in your work is boundaries as bridges as opposed to barriers. Can you some people don't see boundaries that way, and this is why it's so important to talk about it, because some folks interpret someone setting a boundary as some kind of an insult, and that is not what it is at all. That's not what it's meant to be. So yes, explain the difference between a boundary being a bridge and a boundary being a barrier.
So let's start with, many people often assume that boundaries result in two responses, either yes or no, right? People think it's either on or off. I can do it or can't do it. Boundaries are the gray area. It's offering someone options of what you could do rather than saying an outright no. So that's the bridge element. Now, to be transparent, there are instances where you do want to erect those barriers, especially if you have someone who is consistently encroaching on your barriers, and they've not necessarily responded to you saying, hey, that makes me feel a way. I am no longer communicating around this particular topic, this issue. I'm not engaging. Sometimes you have to erect a barrier. But when we think about boundaries being a bridge in that gray area, it's understanding the capacity that you have in the moment to do what someone else wants. And if you don't have it, it's offering what you can do. And then they choose whether that works for them or not. For me, that's when it clicked that boundaries can be win-win for both parties. It doesn't have to be lose-win or win-lose. Like, we both can get something out of this. You may not get 100% of what you've asked me for, but you get something, and you get to choose what you want.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, as with everything, there's nuance. Yes. And I'm going to use an example that we literally just experienced, you and I, in preparing for this episode, by which I mean, you reached out to me and said, hey, I sent you the questions in advance. I like to do that as an accommodation for people, right? So I sent you the questions in advance. And surprisingly for me, this is how it landed on me, you sent an email saying, hey, check out my responses. No, sorry, you called me, I think. Right. You called me and said, hey, I want you to look at my responses. And I was so surprised that, you know, you and I are good. We're friends. I was like, girl, I'm not doing that. Right. No. And you're like, well, that's a boundary. Boundary. I'm like, well, I guess it's not topic. No, it wasn't. In that case, it was not a matter of my having capacity or not. Right. And this is why you have to have a measure of self-awareness. You have to think about other people, you know, all of that comes into it, because this is where nuance plays a part. Right. I was just surprised because I have told you many times, as you know, that you are so good at speaking extemporaneously that, you know, it's a talent I wish I had. People might, I don't know. Some people say I have it. I don't feel like I do. Talking is truly difficult for me. You can expound and just be like so everlastingly eloquent. It's just a wonderful thing. And so I admire that with you. So when you ask me to, you know, read your responses, especially this is your third time on the show.
Right.
Never asked me. I was like, what is happening here? And I'm like, girl, I not read. I'm like, but it was from a perspective of I respect and trust you so much. I don't need to review your responses. Then when we, you know, in the immediate prep, just before, you know, turning the record button on, pressing the record button, you explained, you know what, I'm not feeling 100%. I'm not sure if, you know, I actually answered the questions. And I, you know, you said basically you prepped because you're not feeling at your best. Once I heard that, I'm like, oh, I get it. I went and started reading the answers, right? Because you know, you explained, you're like, no, I it's a support ask.
Yes.
That's what I understand. I'm like, oh, if my friend needs support and I can support, I'm going to support. Even if I think she got it, but she needs this from me now, right? I'm absolutely going to support. So then it, you know, my girl, I'm not reading that turn into, oh, absolutely, you know, give me a few minutes, I'll read them right now. And so it can be a negotiation. And so we both heard each other. You heard my confidence in you, and I heard your, but girl, I know you have confidence in me, but I'm not feeling confident in myself right now. Right?
The brain was not braining.
The brain was not braining, and we've all been there, you know? So that is an example, sort of a living example of how a negotiation of boundaries can work between friends, or how just communicating a no, communicating a not right now, communicating a actually I thought about it and it's fine. All of those are options. All of those are options.
Can we pull that thread just a little bit? I thought about it. When we think about boundaries as well, that is the one thing that I want to impart on people. Insert a pause.
Yes.
You know, a lot of times our default is to respond immediately, right? Because we're in our heads and we're thinking all the thoughts. Allow, as you said in the affirmation, grant yourself permission for that pause to consider. And maybe your response in that moment is, can you give me until Tuesday? Can you give me 4 hours? You know, that way you have more time to truly center whether you do have the capacity to fulfill the need. And if you can't, what can you offer?
Yes.
But permit yourself the pause. That's where you see the space, the unfurling, if you will. Oh, look at me with the little T reference. Okay. Anyway.
Executive T lady.
You see the unfurling of what's possible versus getting into a situation where you're saying yes when you mean no. And then that's a whole other kettle of fish right there.
Yeah, that's a whole other kettle of fish. Another example I have from today as well. A couple of my other friends want to do a co-working session. You know, and I said, you know, I can do it, but I can't do it before X time because I have these other things going on. So it's not a no, it's I can do it later, which again is okay. That's my boundary. I'm not going to do it. I can't, first of all, I can't do it while you and I are recording. That obviously can't happen, right? I'm also not necessarily going to do it immediately after because you need a moment to decompress. So sometime shortly thereafter, then we can do it. That's when I am available. If that works for y'all, then I will see you on the call. And what I love though is that with my true friends, those kinds of discussions are fine. Like it's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you and I have both told each other either, no, not right now, not this time, maybe a bit later. All right, no, I can't do 2, but I can do 5. Like you said, I can't do Tuesday, but I can do Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
We both done. I know I said Thursday, but girl, I can't. We both done that, right? And it's all right. It's all right. It should be all right, especially between friends. If your friends don't receive your negotiation for this kind of thing well, re-examine the status of that friendship.
Lisa, let me just say this. I work with both men and women, 90% women, right? And so there is like a 1-2 combo regarding awareness when people begin to internalize that reframe from boundaries as being selfish to being that bridge into, or that invitation and that bridge to connection. And often when their default is yes, when they really mean no,
Oh dear. Yeah.
they get into or begin to experience feelings of anger. And when we have our conversations, our coaching conversations, ultimately it's revealed that the anger they thought was directed at the individual for constantly asking for things, like, how dare you, this person keep asking me for things. They see that I'm busy, they see that I'm doing things, they see that I'm overloaded. They realize that the anger was at themselves for not speaking up.
Yes.
And that awareness shifts what boundaries are and what they're for. And realizing that we as individuals cannot control other humans. Right. So takers are going to take regardless. They could see you drowning. And what's that meme where the hand is coming out of the water and then there's the high five?
Yes, I know the meme you're talking about. Yes. They're like, oh, can you do
Takers are going to take. So it is incumbent upon us to know what we will and will not say yes to, and what, is just a hard, definitive no. So for example, there's some things that you just absolutely will not talk about. Okay, people will try to brush past that line. Well, you got to figure out how you're going to have that conversation if they continue to push the line.
Yes. And I kind of alternate, because life, we're human and there's no such thing as perfection. So there are times where my no is, and I'm not talking about in friendship, I'm talking about other people, maybe colleagues or situations with people that you don't know that well. I am capable of saying a no and sticking to it. But I also have a deeply ingrained habit from childhood of, oh, absolutely, yes, I can. Immediately, which is why I really love and appreciate your advice about taking a pause. The pause is for you and for the other person, because what you definitely don't want to do, again, ask me how I know, right? With the best will in the world, overcommit. You might not even realize at the time that overcommitting is what you're doing, but you don't want to say yes and then either be over capacity or actually be unable to do what it is you've committed to. Because then that creates a situation where the other person might interpret that as, oh, this person is not trustworthy. I can't depend on them because they have not delivered upon their commitment or their promise. So having boundaries, it's definitely for us. The tender armor is for us as a self-protective measure. The boundaries are also to help preserve your relationships with other people.
Absolutely. I think that we as leaders, mothers, friends, business owners, sometimes all of those, wrapped up into one, nurturers, supporters, caregivers, all rolled into one, we're juggling a lot on our plate. And I want to say this very clearly for all of the Black women listening. You cannot do everything.
Mhm.
And if you try, there's a cost. We continue to believe, we need boundaries with others. And I agree, we do. However, I think the first set of boundaries is to practice with ourselves.
Mm.
Many Black women, and I include myself in this group, have a deeply, deeply ingrained tendency towards people pleasing, giving to others by default, rushing in to save people, and assuming responsibilities that absolutely are not ours,
Right,
often
right.
at our expense, especially our well-being. And as we mentioned a moment ago, this can leave us feeling angry or disappointed,
Mhm.
and to some degree ashamed.
Yes,
So
yes.
when someone asks us for something and we believe that, again, we sometimes affix those superwoman capes very firmly around our neck, and we
Yeah.
believe that we can do everything and provide everything to someone when they ask. And when we can't deliver because we're exhausted or we're on the edge of burnout or just depleted, we turn that negative lens towards ourselves
Mm.
and think that there's something wrong with us. We failed. It's not a failing, is, as you mentioned a moment ago, it can be overcapacity.
Yeah.
You have a lot on your plate, and boundaries allow you to really prioritize what gets onto your plate.
Mhm.
Once we can begin to heal that wound, we can diminish those pangs of feeling guilty, of not giving, or not giving in the ways that people expect or have demanded in prior interactions.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned earlier, can we shift from that word, the word giving, to what it really is in a lot of instances, which is extraction?
Ooh,
It's extraction, because
let's
if
talk about extraction,
look,
shall we?
look, because if we were to review those instances of giving to people,
Mhm.
right? How many of those individuals would reciprocate if we asked? Maybe some.
Very, maybe some, but my experience has been very, 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 very few.
Correct.
And the audacity that lives in some people never ceases to amaze me because,
Maybe.
and you and I talk about this often about reciprocity. And my favorite phrase of yours, directional,
Directional.
bi-directional and reciprocal, right? That's what we talk about. That's how friendships should be, relationships should be, partnerships should be. But as you said, there are people who are takers and who don't even seem to understand what reciprocity is and understand about basic, I don't know, relationships 101, by which I mean, in there are very few cases. I'm not going to say never because, I've lived a long life. I don't remember everything, but I
Hmm.
can definitely say there are very few times in which I meet somebody for the first time and immediately ask them for a favor. I honestly, I can't think of a time, but you understand what I'm saying? And I
I,
mention this because of LinkedIn. We have many talks about LinkedIn because people will just hop into your inbox without knowing you. And they don't say hello, they don't say hi, none of that. It's, how can you help me? Immediately.
I
Anyway.
can I can say early in my career I was extractive,
Hmm.
and for very specific reasons. That's how I was taught to network.
Oh
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
I was taught networking was, you go to networking events, you ask
Hmm.
people what they do, and you ask them
You
to,
make an ask.
yes.
Yeah, we're all, and I'm glad you brought that up because actually so many of us are trained that way, even if it's not how we were raised.
Raised. Yeah.
Once we get into our corporate raising or corporate training, then
Oof.
we are trained that way, right? That's how we are socialized. You're supposed to go network and you're supposed to make an ask and you're supposed to only speak to people for X number of time because then you're taking up too much of their time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I
It's
don't
very
like
trans it's very
networking like that.
transaction it's transactional
Yeah,
by
yeah.
design. When, as I said earlier, a lot of us, especially if you don't have people, mentors around you to guide you on navigating the corporate landscape,
Yeah.
you learn through some very challenging experiences. And
Mhm.
so that level of transactional or transactional relationships is what you understand relationships to be. Again, if you don't have other sort of bidirectional
Mhm.
relationships in your life. So that becomes your paradigm. And that's how you view relationships. And unfortunately, you cause harm
Mhm.
in these relationships with people.
Yeah. Yeah. You cause harm not only in the relationships with people. What we often don't realize is that we're also harming ourselves, because then we're training ourselves to think that I am, I am only as good as what I can do for other people. I'm only as worthy as my title.
So
Only, right? Yeah. Please jump on in.
so that is where your boundary with yourself comes into play, because many people, again, as part of your corporate identity,
Mhm.
it we're taught that you tie your identity to your employer, you tie it to your title, you tie it to your salary, you tie it to all the things that on paper and from an external perspective are measures of success that other people can visually look at and say, oh, this person is successful, right?
Mm.
However, that relationship with self might be non-existent, or if we think of it as a muscle, it it hasn't had some reps in a few
Yes,
years,
yes, yeah.
right? And so it makes it difficult or challenging, not difficult. It makes it challenging when you try to erect boundaries with others. And I tell people, and this is, after close to 700 hours of coaching humans, if you have challenges establishing and erecting boundaries in your personal life, it is a strong probability you have none in your professional life, and vice versa, right?
Interesting. Really?
Because there's a level of discomfort. Self-trust, self-trust is, in my opinion, part of the foundation of boundaries. Like, you
Mhm.
need to feel comfortable and confident in yourself, advocating for yourself,
Right.
saying no when you really mean a no, and or saying yes when you really mean a yes. So if
Mhm.
you are uncomfortable telling Big Mama no that they can't come over to your house for
Yes.
Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
how then do you have a conversation with your leader or your peers to
Mhm.
say, hey, I don't like it when you talk to me this way?
Right.
How
Right.
do you do that? If
Mhm.
you have no muscle memory in one area of your life, do you then come over into this other aspect of your life and you are a whole different person? I think sometimes we have a misconception that we can compartmentalize who we are, our personal from our professional. We are one person. We show up. I take Alexis, now, not all of her,
Right. Same.
because
Because they say they want you to bring your full self. I'm like, do you really? You
the
sure?
the Alexis at home curses a whole lot more than the professional Alexis. So I don't bring her out, right?
Yes.
But I bring 90% of me to an
Mm.
environment, excuse me, such that I am aware that how I show up does not radically differ in my
Yes.
personal and my professional life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is that the importance of consistency, the importance of alignment, the importance of living a values-based life. Because if you're living that way, your values at home and your values at work, your values when you're speaking to someone in a pharmacy or a restaurant or on a bus are going to be the same. They're not going to change, right?
You think
Ideally, ideally,
ideally, yeah,
ideally,
yeah, yeah,
ideally.
ideally.
So back a bit onto internal boundaries and like boundaries within ourselves. How how that work? No, I'm just kidding. with Alexis, what are internal boundaries, or what does that look like? How do we build that muscle of setting internal boundaries with ourselves, or maybe I don't even know if that's the right language, or maybe just knowing what our boundaries are and testing them out on ourselves first.
Well, so let me keep it very simple. Well, if in terms of conveying an example of an internal boundary,
Mm-hmm.
because I know everybody can relate to this. Okay, I find myself guilty of this as well. So I never exclude myself when I give examples. I'm not excluding myself. Either I've been there, or I'm working through it currently, or I've moved past it. Right.
Right.
So we all, at some point or another, have added to our calendar a reminder that says, I'm going to go to the gym.
Wait, hold on. Let me. I'm here looking for my edges because I think you just snapped them off.
Oh, no. It gets better. It gets better.
Oh,
So it's on there, and we're like, today is the day. So let's just say that the reminder is at noon. 8 o'clock in the morning, we know it's there. We're ready to go. We're like, yes, today is the day. Now, Chad, Sarah, and Tom have pissed you off between 9:30 and noon. You are stressed. You are over this day.
yes.
Alarm pops up, the reminder, hey girl, hey, it's time to go to the gym. And what do you do to the reminder, Lisa?
You smash it off, you ignore it, and you're like, oh, I'm not doing that now, and you order some ice cream. Oh, wait, is that just me? I'm sorry. That was weirdly specific, but yeah, been there.
You kick the can down the road.
Yep.
So when
I'll
you
do
talk
it
about
tomorrow, I'll do it next week.
Correct.
Yep.
Or my example for me is I set the do not disturb on my iPhone, such that the phone shuts off at a certain time, right?
Yes.
All the apps shut down, right? Now, I have a very bad habit that when it shuts down, I'm in the middle of something. Like I am scrolling the news because, hello, it is still news at 10 p.m.
Yes.
I now need to understand what has happened in the world while I was at work.
Mm-hmm.
So what I will do is I will, on the iPhone, for those of you who don't have an iPhone, when it pops up, when the app is closed, it opens up a screen. It says you have 1 more minute, 15 more minutes, or ignore for today.
Right.
In my deluded state, I do 15 minutes for like 5-6 times.
Yes.
Example of an internal boundary, basically not honoring your word, not keeping your commitment to yourself.
To yourself. And what we don't, first of all, many of us don't realize that is what we're doing, that we're actually breaking promises to ourselves.
Correct.
Right? Then we end up in either relationships or experiences where people break promises to us. And we wonder, why? Now, this is not to excuse those ridiculous people that are breaking promises and not keeping their word, but it is to bring up that we might be recreating the experience of having promises broken, because the first person we break a promise to is to ourselves.
Yes.
And then we keep replicating that in relationships. And so even the practice of, yes, if you say you're going to go to the gym, actually go to the gym. If you say you're going to take a nap, at least lie down. You might not fall asleep, but at least try and honor the practice, etc., and start building your internal cellular and etheric and spiritual experience of having promises kept. Start the practice of keeping your word to yourself and honoring yourself enough to keep your commitments to yourself. And then you'll see more and more of that starting to reflect in your people and experiences around you.
I tell my clients often, and I'm a firm believer in this, that when your energy changes, when your energy shifts, the energy of those around you has no choice but to shift. Now, full transparency, their energy may shift negatively because they are unconsciously having to respond differently to your new energy. And people don't
Yes.
like
Yes.
responding to your energy differently, especially if they've benefited from unfettered access to you or
Mm.
unfettered access to what you deliver or provide or whatever they can gain through you.
Yes. Yes. Because I'm sure, I know you and I have experienced it. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching and listening have as well, that when sometimes, often even when you set a boundary, it can shift relationships. It can even end relationships. And so my question to you in terms of that is, how do we stay grounded, stay focused, stay true to ourselves when maybe a relationship that we really value changes or ends because we are respecting our own boundary, or we have set a boundary for ourselves? Like, how do we navigate that?
Well, I'd say first ask yourself what type of relationships you want. And when I say relationships, I just don't
Yeah,
exclusively
any kind.
mean it's right. Any interaction with a human, right?
Yes, yes.
Do you want a supportive or transactional relationship?
Hmm,
Like
hmm.
that is the first question to ask yourself. You know, people, as I said, people accustomed to unfettered access to you will absolutely resist any
Yes,
sort
yes.
of shift, any sort of boundary, anything that changes their dynamic with you. That is the nature of change, right? However, as you said earlier, those who understand, those who get it. They gonna roll with it. Now, if someone punishes you because they don't get their way, that's spoiled child behavior.
Hmm.
And you
Oh,
have to get
yes.
really clear, are those relationships that you want to sustain? Be be prepared to some degree that who you become may not work for people.
Hmm.
That unfortunately is part of professional development. It's part of growth. It professional personal development. It's part of growth. And I think it must be said that the ways that you found that community, those connections, you can find them again. There are, I checked on this earlier today, there are approximately 8 billion people on planet Earth in 2025. Go find your people.
Find your people. Find your people. Many of us, especially where family is concerned, and,
Whew.
and I know this, I know this is the touchy area, but those family ties can be strong, and sometimes they come with a good side helping of guilt, with a lot of expectations, with some heaviness. Um, how do we navigate those feelings and experiences of either us experiencing guilt? Let's say if we say no to a close family member, or set a boundary with a close family member, or guilt and shame that are imposed upon us by others. Like, how do we deal with that while we're trying to navigate being true to ourselves and keeping our tender armor nice and shiny? How do we do that?
I'd say it's multifaceted, meaning in order to navigate those boundaries with those individuals, you said something. What is the relationship with yourself? You know,
Mm,
before pushing back necessarily, what do you value? So it's getting clear on your values. I can take you through just like a quick example of like how I work with my clients on it. And just for anyone listening or watching, this is like a multi-month process. This none of behavior change, mindset work, mindset shifts are instant. Like
mm,
it takes time. But first, it's getting clear on your values. And for some that can be uncomfortable, right? It's
yeah.
defining what are your values, and then once we've captured those values, we examine where do they appear currently within your life.
Mhm.
And that is an eye opener for many people to recognize that they are not living according to what they say their values are. Their actions aren't aligned. From there, it's noticing,
Right.
noticing in your day to day actions how many or where specifically are your values missing? And
Mm.
that the aim of noticing is not to modify the behavior just yet. It's to understand. It's think of it as data gathering, data collection.
Yes.
It's to notice how many tangible places you are actually showing up values misaligned. And
Hmm.
again, that's another awareness point for people because we often think, in our heads, we are killing the game,
Oh, yeah.
right? We are out here rocking it. Once we start to pay attention, we recognize our stuff is a little raggedy.
Hmm.
Our
Hmm.
slip is showing. And
Hmm.
then finally, and I use finally in quotes, we begin to explore what does values aligned living look like for that individual. Like we start to expand the aperture to notice what else could be for your life.
Hmm.
And then we start plotting a course for what does it look like to move closer to those goals.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And also, we are talking a lot about us people establishing and maintaining boundaries for themselves and with other people. I think an important part of the discussion is having a circle around you, a circle of people around you that help keep you accountable. And I do have an example, and the example is may or may not be on this call right now. Right? Because let me tell y'all, Miss Alexis, and this is why I adore her so. She helps keep me on track, right? And helps keep me honest. And I appreciate that so deeply because there are a few people that do that. Another person that does that for me is my bestie Annie. Like I have really good people, solid people that I trust. So anyway, the example is so I'm preparing that one of, the reason really why, as I mentioned at the top of this show, why this show is being pre-recorded is because I'm preparing for some major life and health changes that I need to deal with, right? And so because I'm human, I got caught up in my to-do list because it feels like there are a million things to do. And it's not just it feels like, there are close to a million things to do, to be perfectly honest. And I briefly went into almost like a panicked or like an anxious state of and just hyper working. I went into hyperdrive trying to get everything done. And Alexis and I were talking one day and very recently, and she was like, "But do you have to do all of it? You know, if you are the queen of rest and you are the queen of space to exhale, are you resting and are you giving yourself space to exhale?" And I was like, damn. Well, yes, I'll just say, I said, damn. Okay, right. But in a loving way, because, and this is where you have to distinguish people's intentions, right? I know Alexis's intentions are always for my highest good and vice versa. So if she's saying, sis, hold up, I don't think if rest is one of your key values, you are so far off right now, right? If west is your north, headed due south, right? But I needed that reminder. I was like, you know what, Alexis, you're 100% right, and it helped me to reassess my priorities, get back to my true north, which is okay. How can I do what needs to be done without exhausting myself while getting rest? And let me tell you, I've been having some wonderful naps in a between getting prepared for this little life situation that I'm dealing with. But it's partly because I have a friend who said, "Hey, I know this is a value of yours. Um, I feel like you need to like get back on track and you need to be more loving to yourself in this situation." And I just want us all, please, please, please be open to having these kinds of conversations with your friends. It can save a life. I don't know. Yeah.
And I will say that if you find
Hmm.
that you are unable to have these conversations with the people that surround you, maybe that's an opportunity to examine who has access to you and who you surround yourself with and who you tell certain things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because we always we all know, I don't know if you've heard this phrase and I might butcher it, but if a dog will carry a bone, he'll bring a bone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you surround yourself with people, and again, this is about boundaries. This
Mm-hmm.
is about who do you allow access to you, because a lot of times we believe that, oh, everyone should have access to me. No, the heck they shouldn't. I had
Nope.
to I had to reel actual Alexis back
Was
in.
that going to be a
Woo. Yes,
fabulous
yes,
word?
that was going to be a fabulous word.
But that's
No,
all
the
right.
heck they don't. No, the heck they don't. And if
Mm-hmm.
any, I always use the example. And if anyone out there has interacted with me, you probably heard this example. I use Tiffany's a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany's is exclusive for a reason.
Yes.
Tiffany's is not for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
for a reason, by design. You should be as well.
Yes.
And
Value
that's where you
value yourself to that
value
degree.
yourself and being discerning about who you allow. Let me say it this way: being discerning about who you apply the label friend to.
Woo. Yes.
I
Because
think
let me tell you.
we are so, not we, because I'm an only child. So
Mhm.
I'm accustomed to riding solo dolo, right?
Right.
And books were my world. So that's where I was a bookworm when I was a kid.
Mhm.
So I have always like looked at people like, who are you? Why do you want to come over into this space? Right?
Right. Right.
Or hold on, let me make sure that you are safe
Mm-hmm.
for me to allow you into this space. And I think we do ourselves sometimes a disservice by what we feel in relationship to people, like, oh my God, I laugh with this person. That's great. Is this person trustworthy? Can they keep your secrets? Can they hold counsel with you? Can they pray for you?
Mm-hmm.
Are they praying for your good? Are they praying for your success? Are they praying for your health?
Yes.
Or are they secretly on the download, jealous of your success,
Mm-hmm.
praying for your downfall?
Mm-hmm. And having that discernment, that level of discernment, I am so happy for you that you have always had that level of discernment. It is
Baby.
that is not always the case with me. There are times where I instantly know XYZ person is dangerous. In what and there are different levels. I don't mean like
Mm-hmm.
literally, you know, stalker dangerous, although yes, that too. But that can happen. It has happened. But I have been able to tell sometimes, but I know that I've gotten fooled by people who present themselves in a certain way. And I don't know. I think it is something with some people who have autism, where there is a certain level of naivete in terms of relationships and not fully understanding sometimes the full context,
Mm.
right? I didn't understand until recently why this was something that I sometimes struggled with. But I literally, as a golden retriever of a human being, I'm like, oh my gosh, they smiled at me. We're best friends forever now. I do have that side as well. And so I am definitely somebody who I'm at least aware of it. So I
Mm-hmm.
I need to take a pause and give people a long runway to let them prove themselves over time. But it's something that I have to like consciously choose every single time because it doesn't come naturally to me. I am the puppy in the dog park that wants to play with all of the dogs, you know? But that's not safe. It's not safe, and so I'm learning from people like yourself to ask more questions, um pause, go into counsel with myself, go into counsel with spirit,
Mm-hmm.
um and for the people that you do know that you can trust, ask a question. I've definitely called you before and said, okay, sanity check me on this. What do you think? Am I tripping? Well, it's okay to do that
Yeah.
if you're not sure.
I will say that I have to make a conscious effort not to over index on Rottweiler. So
Yeah.
you index on golden retriever, I index
Mhm.
on Rottweiler. And again, being a city kid, you
You
know,
have to.
you had to.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't, I rode public transportation as
Mhm.
like a 10-year-old.
Mm.
You had to have a level of armor, not
Yes.
tender, armor
Yes.
up, because you never knew what was coming at you. And then again, we live in New York City, and there is always someone trying to.
Pull a fast one.
Okay, there we go. I was trying to figure out how to clean it up in my head. Thank you. Pull a fast one. Thank you.
I'm dying. I really want to know what you're actually going to say. Or do the listeners not want to hear that? Okay.
And they probably do, but you'd have to beep 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 beep. That's maybe one day if you do like outtakes, or you do like after party after the podcast
Oh my gosh.
and
Yeah.
unbleep, we'll talk about it there.
Yes.
But
Yes.
pull a fast one.
That's a
Pull a
plan.
fast one.
That's a plan. Pull the fast one. That's what we'll go with. That's what we'll go with. Yeah, there are. It's so interesting hearing about our different experiences. Now, I remember. I guess essentially I grew up in the suburbs in Barbados, and I remember some of my classmates. Some of us were, driven to school, and some took public transit. It's a mix, right? But I remember some of my classmates laughing at me. Now, okay, the wall of this here's the wall of the school, and just behind that wall essentially was the public transport, like the bus stand, right? The bus depot. We call it the bus stand. And when I tell you, I don't know how old I was when I first, people had to like walk me. I didn't know. It was close. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know, quote unquote, how to take the bus. And I don't remember, I don't know if mommy was traveling. I don't know what it was, but one day I had to take the bus, and they laughed at me and they helped me. But that's how sheltered I was. I didn't take the bus probably until well into my teens, I think. Right. And it was like, wow. So very, very sheltered. But that combined with being a bookworm and living in my head, and oh, by the way, being autistic and not knowing it, it's like I was just always floating around someplace, not totally tethered, fully tethered to the earth, and not fully focused on, hey, this person might not be safe for you. I didn't even know how to analyze that because I hadn't experienced it,
I think a lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, I'm basing this anecdotally on the work that I do.
Yes.
Safety is a difficult component to measure.
Yes.
Specifically because there's that disconnection with self. So I remember one client who, they wanted a specific career. Their parent was adamant that is their child would not have that career, right? Because that career wouldn't make money, that career wouldn't be perceived as glamorous enough, a lot of stuff projected onto my client.
Right.
And what we worked through was, once they could peel back the layers to understand what they wanted, they began to realize that the interactions that they'd had throughout their career were not safe. They continued to work in environments and in spaces that either diminished their soul, discounted their education and experience, and completely eroded their confidence, all because they had the imprint from their parent that you must stay in roles that look a certain way in order to project outwardly success, no matter inwardly what you were feeling. That was not a conversation that they had growing up. And so once we started to understand and bolster their confidence, if you will, work through what it meant to have a life based on what they wanted, they began to recognize that, oh, I get to define what safety means. I get to write it down, and when I see it or I get a whiff of it, oh, I can either remove myself from the situation or I can put some space between myself and that other person, or I can completely, ignore this person, whatever they needed to do such that they felt safe. I think returning to that sense of connection is part of, um, how do I say it? Eliminating the external noise, the external chatter, the think pieces from other people, to understand what you want and how you want to navigate forward.
Yeah, yeah. Because we are taught, many of us are taught to either to basically suppress our wants, our needs, our desires, our dreams for ourselves. And so moving from that to actually what Elaine Lynn Herring calls choosing voice, to choose to actually express what you need, to choose to express your boundary, to choose to express your desire and your dreams for yourself. It is so radical and so brave if you have been raised in completely the opposite way, and wow. So I just admire what you do, Alexis. I have to say, because coaching is not easy, and you people think it's easy.
They
Now,
do.
another conversation that you and I have had is that there are coaches and there are coaches. All coaches are not created equal. I am blessed to know some really good coaches, of whom you are one. But it is not easy work. I think there are folks out there, some what I call the charlatans, who believe that they can just wake up one day and decide they want to be a coach and then start coaching people. I don't know based on what. Now, do I have lots of life experience? Absolutely. Can I give some, advice? Absolutely. But I'm not a coach. I would never call myself a coach and put myself, position myself in a role to be like formally doing that for folks. So anyway, but I really admire what you do. It takes training. You see those letters after her name, PCC, and she has I don't know, about 6-8 more. There's a bunch of letters after Miss Alexis's name, because it's important, because she has actually been trained and certified as a coach.
Are you saying I'm not a laws and vibes coach?
You are not. Because Lord have mercy, I can't stand it. It's like there are times where, like I said, you call your friend, you're like, girl, blah blah blah, let me tell you what happened, right? And then there are times when you need a coach or you need a therapist, not your friend. Doesn't and because all your friend, your coach, your therapist, three different roles, all equally vital in their own way, but very very specific. But you do a very specific kind of coaching, which is for high achieving executives. So you are not a quote unquote business coach, right?
Correct.
You are an executive coach. Right? And so you deal with a lot of leaders, the leaders in the C-suite and at the VP level. This is your world. Now, how can strong boundaries make people into better leaders? And how does that play into, like, in all of your coaching conversations with these executives that you coach? How often do you talk about boundaries?
Often.
Yeah.
Often. And so the two words that I would say immediately spring to mind are self-awareness and self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Because um many of us have been in the corporate landscape, right?
Mm-hmm.
And child, we have seen leaders who are thrust into positions with no training, no
Yes.
clear expectations, and they are literally winging it on laws and vibes, right?
Right.
Based on what they've seen other leaders do. And so I urge my clients and any leaders listening, define what type of leader you want to be and
Mm-hmm.
how you want people to feel about your leadership. That has nothing to do with a framework. It has nothing to do with, oh my gosh, I want to be liked. It's what type of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be? And how do you want people to feel about your leadership? It's not that you're proving your leadership. It's how do you want your team to feel about you as a leader? Additionally, does your leadership align with developing yourself and others? Does your leadership comprise curiosity and active listening? If it doesn't, then that is an opportunity for some more self-reflection. And when I work with leaders, a lot of them come in like, hey, I need this framework to do this, this, and this. And my first question is, okay, so what is that framework going to do for you? And they're like, well, what do you mean? What is a framework going to do for you? If you're looking for steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, you could have Googled that. You don't need me.
Right.
So how can we expand your leadership such that you are not cookie cutter like the other leaders that are out there? You actually give a damn about your employees. They know it. And you move beyond these feelings of being a liked leader. And when I say liked leader, it's you understand that you're going to have to deliver some challenging conversations to people. You may have to separate individuals. You may have to have performance conversations. So how can you step into those conversations without the desire to be liked and to prove that you are a quote good leader? And that anchors that definition of what type of leader you want to be helps anchor you. It becomes your North Star.
Yeah. I like that. And one thing about you, Alexis, is you will ask the question. You are not. Yes, no, but this is the beauty of it. You are not a surface person.
No.
Listen, y'all, every time Alexis and I have a conversation, right? And don't get me wrong, we are laughing and giggling and kikiing. But let me tell you, there are resources at the end. There might be a little homework. We do research,
and that's for both of us. That's for both of us. That's not me just like providing that to you. That's both of us.
It's both of us. It is a conversation at such a high and deep level, and I don't know. For me, it fills my spirit, and it makes my heart happy because that's the kind of conversation I want to have. Am I learning something? Is it enjoyable? Are we having fun? Are we aligned, like how we showed up today in our matching green, right? Green with red lip. That's a vibe for today. But seriously, yeah. So, are we, is there alignment and is there elevation? Because no matter what the conversation is, I feel better after, like a better human being, I mean, after, because the focus is, without even necessarily expressing it, we're always like, okay, how can we be better? How can we do better? How can we show up for each other? It just is absolutely beautiful to me.
The people in your life shouldn't drain you. Like if you find yourself deep breathe and rolling your eyes every time you go engage with that person or those people, I'm just going to say maybe that's an opportunity again to re-examine who you are surrounding yourself with.
Yeah.
And my mom said something to me. My mom said, I have more days behind me than I have in front of me. Right? So many of us are, all of us are, navigating along the continuum of life, right? It has not stopped for many of us. So what do you want moving forward that you were either deprived of or fearful of, going after? What do you want more of going forward? If you see people who have like large swaths of friends, if that's what you want, how do you position yourself to do that? I know, again, as an only child, I used to want like, oh my God, I would love to have like 12,000 people. Girl, the older I got, I realized, no, that does not work for me at all. I would never have conversations with those people because it would be too much coming at me.
Yes, yes.
So
And you can't, sorry, go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, find who is for you and hold on to them suckers for as
Yes.
long as you can.
Yes, absolutely. Because I believe with friendship, almost any kind of relationship, right? It's definitely quality over quantity. And so, like you said, I don't need 12,000. I don't even need 20. Like people who have like, oh, I have 20 best friends. How do you have 20 best friends? How you cannot convince me that you know all of these people at a quote unquote best friend level in terms of, as the saying goes, knowing where the bodies are buried, having, as you and I have had, right? You have some TMI conversations where like, girl, I have to tell you all of the deep insights of this conversation for you to know the context of what's happening. You have those kinds of conversations. You can't have that with 20 people or unless you are living on the phone.
And if you find yourself surrounded by people, and I don't care who these people are, right? If you find yourself surrounded by people who use the following phrases: you are too much, or you are not enough. Give them fools a damn show. Okay? Take up even more space. Because people will always have an opinion of how you do what you do, who you do, what you, in life. They will have opinion pieces, think pieces about where you live, what you eat, your body, your hair, your job, everything. Take up space.
Yes.
When we talk about boundaries, do not allow other people's boundaries to be yours. So if you want friends.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, pause and repeat. Reel and come again, like they say. Say that again, please. You said do not allow other boundaries.
Do not allow other people's boundaries to put you in a box.
Yes, and to become yours. That is amazing.
No. People will, going back to like Black women's experiences, specifically, I can only speak to America because that's where I was born and raised.
Right.
So we are navigating within a system that desires for us to be shrunken, that desires for us to be contracted because it benefits and makes comfortable others. Take up space. The box that someone tries to put you in is only yours if you choose to own it. If you own that limiting narrative, then that's now your box.
Yeah.
But you get to define. We are more powerful, so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. There is a quote that I ran into. I'm gonna look. Let me tell y'all just real quick. Like, I am horrible with names. Horrible pronunciation, remembering them. So I'm going to possibly not say this name correctly. Okay, I have it. Hold on. Let me pull it up because it was a quote that I said this audience needs to hear. Okay. The woman who doesn't require validation from anyone is the most feared individual on the planet. Her name is Mahadasi. Nope. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give Lisa the quote. She could put it in the show notes because I'm not going to embarrass myself and disrespect this sister's name by messing it up. But I'm gonna repeat the quote. The woman who doesn't require validation from anyone is the most feared individual on the planet.
Very true. Very true. Because then you can't be controlled.
You can't tell me who I am if I know who I am.
Yeah.
You can't say that.
Define me for me.
Correct. I've already defined me for me.
Yes. So
when we talk about boundaries, that is a huge boundary. And our queen Lauryn Hill says you can't win if you ain't right within. Right. So if when we talk about boundaries with other people, we gotta answer the call that's coming from inside the house. We got to get right with ourselves, and we have to do the hard work. It is hard. I'm not going to lie to you. Do the hard work of no longer proving externally that we are worthy. Prove that to yourself. Do you believe that you are worthy? If you believe that, then that is enough.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I'm glad that you mentioned, though, that and this is why we're doing a second show on it, and who knows, we'll probably do a third and a fourth at some point. But that's why this discussion around boundaries is so important, because it is hard work, which means, though, that those of us who are doing the work often experience what I call boundary fatigue, which is the exhaustion of constantly having to explain, defend, negotiate, reassert, revisit our boundaries and our limits. So how do we, in the midst of standing up for ourselves, making sure our tender armor is shiny and in good condition, and being our own advocate, how do we cope with that boundary fatigue?
So before I answer that question, I'm going to offer a blanket statement, a blanket suggestion. Stop explaining yourself. Period with a T.
Period.
Why? Because people will willfully misunderstand you, regardless of how many times you make it clear why you said what you said. Save yourself some heartache. Now, in full transparency, I'm not well versed in boundary fatigue. However,
I love that you're not.
I'm not. I have had experiences this week that have illustrated where my boundaries were clearly needed. So for me, there's no fatigue. There's not an explanation for why I am doing this thing beyond either I'm doing it,
right,
or I'm not. That's it. However, when you find yourself constantly explaining the the same thing over and over and over again to the same people, there are choices one must make. Either making it clear that you're no longer talking about the matter, determining, how many interactions you're willing to have with someone before their access to you is removed or significantly limited, but there are choices to be made. And when you continue to explain and explain and explain, that is a choice.
Yes.
And if someone, so this is the example I give also. If in terms of people's willful ignorance surrounding some topics.
Right.
If I were to give someone all expense paid tickets to Ischia, Italy, right? Maybe they've never heard of Ischia. The first thing they would do, they would hop online and figure out, where the heck is this? All they know is they received a free trip, free tickets. That's it.
Right.
No questions asked, right? So when we think about people, why are people asking that question? Like, are they not getting it? And if they're not getting it, is it your responsibility to educate them beyond what you've communicated initially?
So that needs to be a LinkedIn post, because let me tell you, these people in the comments, you will write a whole screed, right? With not really a screed, because that sounds like a rant, but you'll write a whole fully thought out, well-researched post with citations and the whole thing. And people will still come and ask sometimes what I consider to be nonsensical questions.
Bad faith.
Googleable questions. And I used to sometimes even respond like, why are you asking this? And then I stopped. I don't even want to do that.
Well, the question becomes, how much free labor are you willing to exert?
Yeah. I'm like, no. If you
If
want to
you've
ask that silly
explained something,
question, no.
if you've explained the same thing, let's just say that your threshold is 3 times,
Mhm.
right? If you've explained the same thing 3 times to the same person or the same group of people, how much additional free labor do you want to expend
Yeah.
and exert
Yes.
explaining the same thing, possibly in different ways to the same
Mhm.
outcome to these individuals who are choosing not to get it? Now, if they're children,
That's different. Yeah,
absolutely
that's
there's some grace
different.
for that.
Yeah.
Right. But if these are adults,
Allegedly.
I'm giving benefit of the doubt.
I don't know. I'm giving doubt and no benefit, but okay. That's why we balance each other out, right? I'm like, I'm giving doubt. Child.
I want to mention
Yes.
um, possibly losing community and connections if you erect or establish a boundary. You know, yes, find your people. Yes, there are other people to form connections and community with. Also, it's okay to mourn the loss of those relationships.
Mhm.
And it is also a great opportunity to remind yourself of who you've become,
Yes.
and also remind yourself of the fact that it's okay to outgrow people.
Mhm, mhm.
It means it's everyone, life is a journey, right? And some people will be along for the entirety.
Mhm,
Some people get off earlier. It's okay. Some people choose to grow. Some people choose to remain stagnant.
mhm.
You cannot drag people where you're going.
Yes. Because where you're going is for you. Now,
Correct.
it might turn out that there are some people who, like you said, either temporarily or for an extended period, they might be walking the same road.
Hmm.
But every now and then there's going to be like a little track off to one side. They're going to have to go on that track and rejoin, right? You might come to a fork in the road. Y'all might choose two different paths, right? And that's okay.
Yeah.
That is absolutely okay. But your path and your road is for you. That's who it's for.
My mom says, when God sends you an email, God ain't CCing nobody else.
Hmm.
If God wanted everybody to understand what your journey was, the message would have been a group message.
Yes, yes,
It's not.
exactly.
It's for you.
Yeah, it is for you. And I think so many of us are used to outsourcing our worth, our certainty. Girl, you know what I mean, right? We outsource so much of what makes us us, or what could make us us, that it depletes who we really are, and it diverts us from our purpose because we're so busy looking for approval and buy-in and so on and so forth. And this is not the same as what I mentioned earlier. Remember, I was talking earlier about, okay, sometimes run something past a friend, get it sanity checked, etc., etc. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, okay, so when I decided I was writing a book, I asked nobody what I should write. You understand what I mean? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Now, am I happy once I've written it? I'm like, I sent it to you, I sent it to a few other people, obviously my mom, whatever, but I didn't ask a soul what I was supposed to write. I had been told what I need to write. One-way conversation, like you said, right? So I'm not getting it sounds bad, but it's not something I needed opinions on. And it's okay. When you were launching your business, now maybe were you like, oh, tell me what you think about this branding, or I don't know, something like that. But you knew what your business was.
Yes.
You knew what your purpose and your role was. That was not something that you outsourced to somebody else. You knew what you wanted to do and what you needed to do.
I think part of that comes back to having or reducing external distractions. It is challenging to hear source, whatever your source is, whoever your source is. It is difficult to hear source when there are so many competing, when there's so much competing noise.
Yes.
Rattling around in your head. And so in I agree, you know, whenever I've done something, it has been that one-way download that says, hey, this is next. And at that point, it's my responsibility to figure out, okay, well, how do I make meaning of this? Like, what do I do next? And it comes easier because, again, it's a one-way download. You touched on something, Lisa, you know, that it is a challenge for us to eliminate that proving. And a lot of times we're navigating or negotiating externally our worth.
Yes. Yeah.
Like we're looking for that permission from someone else or somebody else. Somebody's, y'all know what I mean? Somebody.
Yeah.
To validate that we are worth this thing. And, you know, from the softness queen herself, right? We talk a lot about having a soft life. Soft. Gonna be soft. Black women, we're gonna be soft, right? And simultaneously, there can be disbelief that we are worthy of softness.
Ooh, yes.
Because if we're looking at the external messages. The external narrative says that we are laborers.
Yes.
We are not meant to be soft. We are workers. And so again, I mentioned earlier about that deep level of programming. We have to begin to own that softness, however you define it for yourself.
Right.
You are worthy of it. You don't have to prove anything. You know, I look at it as if once we have that, granted ourselves the permission to have a rock solid belief that we are worthy of softness's presence in our lives.
Yes.
We then have an opportunity to leave jobs, relationships, city, states, country.
Yes.
No longer like nurturing the lives we say we want for ourselves. You know, having that solid belief affords us freedom to live in ways that we're unencumbered by the perception of what people say about us or how we move or what we dress or you know what we wear, how we dress.
Yes.
They offer like liberation from programming that wants us in those predefined boxes of you can only be X. Someone who looks like you can only be X. It allows us, once we have that belief, to finally show up, values align. We're living our life based on what we've decided works for us. Not Mama, not Aunt Sarah, not Joe, our leader, you know, not our cousin, not even our children.
Right.
But us. New York is just New Yorkin'.
Oh, listen, that's just part of the seasoning for this episode. That's fine. You know, we bring flavor of all.
We love seasoning. We
do love seasoning. And speaking of which, you know, complete side note, but you know, Alexis is actually a trained chef, y'all. Can I just tell you?
Okay.
Aren't you?
Why is that an Alexis question? Aren't you?
Aren't you?
So innocently. So innocent. You know the answer. Yes, I am. I'm a
I'm just saying.
chef.
If we're
Yes.
talking about seasoning, I'm like, I know somebody who can season some stuff. Miss Alexis. You know the great thing? Let me tell you how life works, right? I like to eat. And God has so made it that a lot of my friends love to cook. And I am very happy about that. Speaking of alignment, now I know that we've completely gone off topic, but food is always relevant in my world. So
Always.
always. Oh my goodness. We did say there were shenanigans. So listen, I know that the beauty of pre-recording is that we can talk for as long as we like, but we are going to bring it to a close.
Yes. Yes.
People have things to do, and but this girl is such a good episode. I just have maybe 1.5 more things.
Sure.
One small question. So
okay.
Which is a big question because it's about how can boundaries help us find space to exhale in our personal lives or professional lives or relationships, and whether in general or for you personally, what do space to exhale moments look like for you now?
So it's funny that you asked this, right?
Yes.
Because my therapist is challenging me to lock into both an evening and morning routine, right?
Okay.
Inserting more intentionality into winding down and how I begin my days.
Right.
Now, why this is important is, again, I was in corporate for a very long time, and I'm naturally an early bird, but in some roles I had to be at work at 7 a.m. So that meant that I was up at like 5. So that is programming in me that says, hey, as soon as 5 o'clock hits or 5:30 hits, you're up.
Gotta be
You
up.
are immediately getting ready for work.
Mhm.
You begin the day of work. And so I am unlearning, hey, you can begin your day different. You can begin your day slower. You can wind down in a different manner. So all of that to say, your girl working on it. I'm a work in progress. I can say that the one thing that I have implemented is I've begun reading more at night, either via my Kindle or, I got me like a little nightlight that I can clip to my book.
Right.
I'm a book nerd. I anything. I got like a hard page divider. Look, I'm a book nerd. I'm a book
Nice.
nerd. So I've begun to read before I go to bed. I'm not as consistent as I want just yet, but it is a work in progress.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always say that's why these things are all called a practice.
Yes.
They're called a practice. They're not called a perfect. They're called a practice.
Fair.
Right?
Fair. Yes.
And so we build, there are going to be times where we're consistent, times when we, as they would say in the church, when we backslide or when we slip a little bit. Okay, maybe that was a bit extreme, but you know what I mean. We're not backsliding over reading, but you understand what I mean. We have the opportunity, having backslid, we can redeem ourselves if we're going with that, and that analogy. So, it's okay if you don't do it consistently, just to continue trying, continue putting in the effort, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. So last question as we begin to close this episode out. I know that there are a lot of viewers and listeners who they're weary, they're feeling a little bit of that fatigue, but they're really ready to build their tender armor and live more softly. So what is one boundary that they can set now or within this next week or month, let's say, that would immediately help them create more peace, more joy, more space to exhale in their lives?
So I'm going to say this and I'm a duck. Okay.
Oh.
Delete all social media and news apps from your phone.
Ooh.
Take a week-long break. Just giving yourself that space. You may learn to lean into more of the things that you love, right? Now, I know, everybody's picking up their jobs from the floor. So for folks who can't do or commit to a whole week, I believe in incremental baby steps, right? So delete all social media and news apps from your phone for 24 hours, right? And then before you reinstall, re-examine and reflect on, do you want to reinstall them, or could you extend the experiment for another 24 hours?
I like that.
And then if you notice that next day, hey, you know what? I can leave this as it is.
Yeah.
So you may be surprised that the week flies by using that incremental approach. But delete all the apps. Because when we think about anxiety, like, we lean into that because we feel a lot of times that we need to be in the know. And again, what I'm learning is, by the time you learn the information, it may not always be fresh and relevant. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you are not paying attention, that you're sticking your head in the sand. It means that you are allowing yourself separation from the madness, from the noise.
And going to that place that you mentioned at the top of the show, like going to that place of quiet, going to a place of I don't think you called it introspection, but self-reflection, allowing, creating an opportunity for that to take place.
Allowing and also allowing an opportunity for you to hear yourself.
Yeah. Hear yourself think.
Hear yourself think. Yes.
Receive those downloads that Alexis and I were talking about earlier, because I'm telling you, you can't receive the downloads when you have on, you have the TV on, Alexa or Siri are playing something in the background, you have a transistor radio, an old school transistor radio as well, then you have all different apps playing at the same time. You cannot hear yourself. No. You cannot hear the still small voice, and the still small voice grounds us in so many ways, guides us in so many ways, including having boundaries, having strong boundaries. How can we protect ourselves? How can we keep ourselves safe? That's an important part of creating opportunity for quiet. So I love that you suggested that, Alexis. That, as usual, listen, you brought it as usual. I mean, I'm so sad that we have to bring this episode to a close, but we do. But Alexis, thank you as always for being you, for being so energetic, unapologetic, so clear, and for delivering everything, all the gems that you shared with us, for delivering them with compassion, because that's important in what you do as a coach as well.
Absolutely.
That comes through. Yeah, that comes through, the compassion. So
thank you.
Thank you. Time 3. Let's see what next season brings. Let's see what next.
Wait a minute. Next season is this? This is the last episode, right?
This is almost. There's one episode after this.
Okay.
There's one episode after this. I had to switch things around.
Okay.
But there's one after this that is going to be this. I think it's the same week as Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then that's it for season 1. So you basically you started it. You're the second one in, and now you're the penultimate, right? So you have bracketed the entire season. And let me tell you all something else. That's what real friendship. I could tell you all how many times I have called Alexis, like, girl, I need you, please. She's like, yeah, no problem. Every time. And so thank you for always showing up, being in my corner. Thank you. You're a wonderful friend. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And so, folks, that's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me for joining us on Space to Exhale, the podcast. Tune in every Tuesday on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook to catch the vibes. And if you can't make the live show, no problem, right? Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and YouTube to catch the replay. And if you enjoyed it, definitely show it some love. Rate it, leave a review, rate it on Spotify, go on to Apple, do all the things. And if you want to dive deeper into what Alexis and I discussed today, first of all, definitely check out Alexis on LinkedIn. It's very easy. LinkedIn.com/IN/ again. Is it a forward slash or a backslash? Anyway, one of those slashes.
They know what it is.
They know what it is. Alexis Mobley. So it's on screen now and it will be in the show notes as well. Make sure you follow her on LinkedIn and make sure you check her out at imattercoaching.com. And naturally, right, get a copy of Space to Exhale as well and dive into all of the goodness in there. So thanks for being here with us, for sharing this space with us. And remember, you are worthy of rest. You are worthy of love, and you are worthy of having time and space to exhale. Bye, and see you next time.